Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cardboard and Coffee. This is the show where I, Optimus Tom, talk about a Magic the Gathering topic, community subject, deck type, event, whatever the heck it is. I'm going to talk about it in the amount of time it takes me to brew my morning coffee. Quick shout out to my wife for the shirt that she got me a long time ago. I don't think she knew that I was going to do content like this in the future, or if she sees the future, she hasn't told me it, but this is extremely appropriate for a show like this. The topic we're going to be talking about today was something I posted about 3 full comments worth of on a Reddit thread that was kind of complaining about the black ward costs that we're getting on cards now, and sort of evolved into a conversation about why green doesn't seem to be getting as strong of cards as colors like black are right now when they're printing new sets. Yes, it was on Reddit, so if you have problems with me posting the stuff that I've went over on Reddit, too bad. I write a lot of really good content, and some of it's better when I just explain it out loud. But it is a very long Reddit post. If you want to read it, I will put it down in the description below the video. However, what I am going to be really going over today is the evolution of green in modern Magic design and thematics, and why some of those cards might not feel as powerful as some of the other colors. So before we dive into the conversation, let's get to brewing 2 different ways.
Today's coffee is the Colombia Nariño from Voyager Craft Coffee, roasted out of Santa Clara. The beans are processed washed and have a fragrant aromatic gardenia and roasted almond smell. It's a little earthier aroma than you'd normally get from a medium roast bean, while the flavor profile mixes the clear, aromatic flavors with a nice smoky oolong flavor to balance out the tone of each sip. I'm going with a classic 15:1 water to coffee ratio for this AeroPress brew, with 15 grams of coffee equaling 225 grams of hot water. I'm aiming for 180 degrees on my pour, which is slightly under what our water heater keeps at 190 degrees, so I'm going to be letting the water sit for roughly 30 to 60 seconds before we start brewing. Voyager Coffee is local to me, so you can find a link in the description below to order coffee of your own.
Now that we get everything all prepared, like I said, this is a topic that I wrote 3 full Reddit posts about, so this is going to be kind of a TLDR, so let's get to brewing before we get to talking about everything. I'm really bad at pouring water. Awesome. So today's brew is going to be about 4 minutes, and we're going to start the conversation right now. So, anyway, green as a color was in a design point maybe 5 years ago where they started exploring some space to kind of make the color parent more powerful. It was being paired with other colors. This is around the time of Ixalan and Theros Beyond Death, and then moving into the 3rd Return to Ravnica. So we knew that we were going to be getting a lot of guild things, we knew we were going to be getting shocklands and everything, but green in general always kind of had this identity of being a stompy color, all these different creatures and everything. And it wasn't so much how powerful the effects of the card were, so much as green's identity really was how powerful is the card itself. You had very aggressively costed bodies on very undercosted mana costs, and that's usually what made green very powerful, but they didn't do a ton. Sure, green had some very powerful keywords, like the hidden reach keyword that doesn't always pop up to opponents when it's across from you on the battlefield. Hexproof was a very green mechanic, but you couldn't really print it on small things without things like bottles and those styles of decks and formats becoming a little bit too strong. So what they wound up doing was trying to add things to green to make them more incentive to kind of play a green deck that could restock its own hand. What you wind up getting at that point was them just kind of slapping draw a card on a lot of green cards. Elder Gargaroth is an example of this, and then cards like Growth Spiral were examples of them trying to kind of make the draw a card feel green because you put blue or another color that had card draw in its kind of color pie area onto the card itself. This wound up making things that were unfortunately a little bit too strong, like Oro, the Titan from Theros Beyond Death, and those types of effects wind up making green too powerful for a while. Cavalier of Thorns is a artifact, or not an artifact card, but it is a card that is an artifact from that era of when they started printing all these powerful effects onto green enters the battlefield or cash triggers, and that card in and of itself is a staple in Pioneer. Now the problem is they tried to balance these things by adding multiple green costs of mana, or green pips of mana in those mana costs. So Cavalier Thorns is 2 and 3 green. Now, could you imagine how powerful this would be if it was 4 and 1 green or 3 and 2 green? And how much you would see play in all of these Bant or Sultai or Naya style decks where the green mana cost wasn't prohibitive? Imagine if you had Old Growth Troll from Kaldheim, another Devotion deck staple, but instead of being triple green pip, it was the same cost as Bone Crusher Giant. These green cards are powerful and they do have really great effects, but the way that Wizards has designed it is basically these big creatures that do things need to have more toned down effects to balance out the fact that they're huge in and of themselves. Otherwise, you wind up having these Bant style decks that are taking advantage of a single big creature, or these Carnage Tyrant style decks in Standard where green is just kind of an afterthought color, and it becoming way too powerful. So instead, you wind up putting extra green pips of mana, and then you wind up having the Devotion problem. So because of so many green pips, Mono Green Devotion is the strongest mono-colored deck in Pioneer right now. So you wind up having a color pairing that has sort of lost a little bit of its identity because big things aren't as good as big effects like Shieldred the Apocalypse over a series of turns. You can't necessarily swarm the way that Mono White is going to. So instead you need to kind of balance these effects and balance the kind of green identity of Stampede. You have a couple or a few big things going a little wide, not a giant army of things, with some effects like they're starting to do at Outcaster Trailblazer and Kiora Behemoth Beckoner, where that power matters on the card in order to kind of keep churning through your deck, generating advantages, and keep your Stampede flowing. Now, these might be a little bit too powerful to be seen from the Devotion deck, but Wizards, I think, is on the right track with that. And as you see here, we are unfortunately out of time for that topic for today. I gotta brew my coffee, but if you want to hear more topics like this, maybe a little more design and game theory kind of stuff, more than just deck analysis specifically, leave me a comment down below on how you thought the video did. And if you want to see more deck text, metagame analysis, coffee content, or in general, Magic the Gathering stuff from me, make sure you tap that subscribe button. I'm gonna get to brewing. Wow, this is taking forever. There we go. Technically I'm supposed to stop when it starts doing that. I'm devoted to this coffee.